Hang on just a minute. Do you want to start all over?
No, I just said. Well, I'm Lance,
And I'm Mike.
and I'm putting on the headphones for another episode of Just These Guys, you know?
Yeah, that's these guys. Now, I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
We've been in here for just a little bit, chatting it up. And I've been casually drinking this cup of coffee that there's something different about it. Now, I got to ask you, there's a coagulant.
A coagulant?
Yeah, in this coffee.
You're talking about the floaties?
Well, what is that? That I'm not just drinking this coffee, I'm eating this coffee.
There's nothing new.
What?
I was just in a hurry this morning. I ran out of the cappuccino, frappa, wappa, whatevers, and I had ordered a salted caramel for you, but it wasn't a cappuccino salted caramel. It was just a coffee with a salted caramel flavor. So I added your favorite condensed milk.
Yeah.
And instead of creamer, that's a protein drink. And it doesn't blend well.
So
with
what you're
pork.
telling me is, have you had all this yourself, or are you just experimenting on me?
Both.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I eat it all separately. I'll have the coffee, just coffee, and then I'll, stick a spoon in and get a big chunk of that
Yeah.
condensed milk and eat it. It's just straight. And the protein shake, I put in some water and just chug it.
So this is exactly what this reminds me of. My daughter, Savannah, when she was a little kid,
Sure.
she would prefer, every day, she would prefer cooking channel shows over cartoons. From the time she has been old enough to watch TV, she has watched cooking shows. And she would then go into the kitchen and she would start making stuff. Well, she would go to the refrigerator, the cabinets, everything. And she would just take whatever she could find. She would put it in a bowl or put it in a cup, and she would mix it all up, and she always called it poupée soufflé. That's what she called it every single time. What are you making? Poupée soufflé. And that's what this is.
That's what this is.
Poupée soufflé caffeinated.
Bobby souffle, poupée.
Well,
Caffeinated.
so listen, it still tastes good. It's just the coagulation was a little alarming.
Then
so
there's
I thought I
whipped
would
cream
ask.
in there too. So
There's no cream?
whipped cream.
Whipped. See,
cream.
poupée soufflé all day.
I just didn't have time to blend up the.
See, because I came in here, did you notice I chewed right there after I took that drink? I came in telling myself, I have to make sure that I thank Lance for the effort. Every week you have a fine cup of coffee waiting for me, on top of everything else that you have to do to
Until
get this
today.
thing ready. And then I thought, well, this is going to be hard for me to keep a straight face and thank him at the same time. No,
Lance,
it
you missed
doesn't.
the mark.
It tastes fine. It tastes way better than it used to for years. But yeah, so it is definitely poupée soufflé different. But hey,
Well, no, what I've decided is the next time I actually get to the store, I am buying chocolate milk.
say, look at that.
I know, I eat it every day.
But
Take your
not in your
finger
coffee,
and
right?
wipe the rim, and then you got,
That's the protein
see,
powder.
yeah, that's protein powder. That's good for you. I'll put hair in your chest.
Mm. You know, I've never had hair on my chest.
Well,
So,
now,
wow, that's
see,
all it took.
didn't you always want it?
I don't know, not now. Used to, not now. Now, like, want to pop up, pluck.
That old man eyebrow.
Because it ain't coming in.
That's why I always went to movie stars, and they're close up on the screen, and they're making billions of dollars a year, and they got that crazy eyebrow. I'm like,
Yep.
buy a $1 pair of tweezers, dude.
Or a big old hair coming out their left nostril. It's like, come on, who's taking care of you?
4K's killing the movie industry now.
Yeah. Yeah. So true.
Is that a hair in his ear?
Well, what important is going on in your world?
We'll
Anything?
start off with a pro tip today.
A pro tip.
Yes, a pro tip as I choke here.
Real quick, while we're being thankful, let's
Sure.
just thank everybody who is continuing to stick with us and hang out in the conversation. And I really appreciate the feedback that I've been getting. People just randomly coming up and saying that they're enjoying the podcast. And I just have to admit that sometimes I'm still taken aback a little bit that someone would be that interested in what I've got to
What
say.
you got to say.
I'm not speaking for you, I'm speaking for me. And it's helpful. So I really appreciate our listeners and the folks that are continuing to kind of stick with us and find something valuable here. So
it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's humbling
Very humbling.
to stand here and just take our conversations that we've had for years.
Right.
Over a cup of coffee.
A wonderful cup of coffee.
Every week.
Yeah.
And now we're just recording them.
Right.
And people are finding benefit
Yeah.
in what we're discussing. So that's great.
Yeah. I mean, I've added it to my list of potential retirement careers.
Really?
That I'm just going to be I'm going to be a semi-professional. Well, I'm going to be a part-time podcaster and a semi-professional tattoo artist. And I got another career that I'm getting ready to launch out. I'm going to do this one here fairly soon. And then you can get to your pro tip.
No.
This is a semi-pro tip.
People are used to our ADD.
Yeah, true. I'm going to become a songwriter.
You are?
Yep.
Woo.
I'm going to start with the song that you and your buddy sent me.
Sure.
That I thought, this has got something here.
Mm-hmm.
But think about
Kind of a Glenn Campbell.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
If you don't hear Wichita Lineman, someday you'll understand, those of you that are listening out there. We'll put something together on this. But think about if we had started when we were young, just simply sitting down and writing, and then we knew somebody that could play a little something.
Sure.
And put a song together. So think about how many days we live. So if I'm 55 years old, I could do the math. That's a lot of days. But if I had taken even half of those days and just sat down and wrote, surely you could come up with one hit song. One. That every time it was played, you got a dime. Now, maybe it's not a mega hit, but you know how much it's still difficult, obviously. It's still really, really challenging to write a good song, and good enough that other people think it's good. Good enough to get a bunch of folks listening to it. But that's the amazing part about like American Idol and The Voice and all this and the internet. How much easier it is today to get your stuff out there and listen to and actually make a bit of a living off of it.
I saw a headline the other day that a guy had written a song about Target, and it went to number one on the charts.
Yeah.
What? Who is the guy, and who's interested in buying a song about Target?
Mm-hmm. So what's been rolling around in my head, I'm just kind of letting everybody in on this for a little behind the scenes. The song that's rolling around in my head is it's going to be titled something similar to Thinking About What I'm Thinking About.
Hey, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because you got to find something that's relative, something that everybody can connect to. And we're all thinkers, right?
Sure.
So thinking about what I'm thinking about. It's probably been written, but not exactly the way I'm going to write it. And it's probably going to be country, because every time I think about writing, I go into my southern slang. And that's what I hear. So anyway, I'm looking forward to that. Just something else to put it's a better way to spend time. What it's going to do is it's also going to force me to play the guitar more.
Sure.
And so, I'm looking forward to it. So stand-up comedian, I got to do that at some point. Just give it a shot. Country songwriter.
Now, what are the three elements to the perfect country and western song?
Well, you gotta lose your dog. You gotta have your truck stolen. And what's the third one?
Pickups, trains, mama, and dogs.
Oh yeah, okay. As long as
David
that's
Allan
in there.
Coe.
Yeah.
I was
David
drunk
Allen Coe.
the day my
Yep.
mama got out of prison.
And I got drunk the next day. All right, pro tip.
Before. Okay.
Yep.
They pay me not to sing, so.
Yeah.
Spotify, somebody's
that's another
at the
good
panel
way to
right now
get paid.
trying to hit the buttons.
Yeah.
No, I think it's great. Yeah, a lot of the songs that we listen to and like, they speak to us about kind of where we're at in life at different points in life. And so oftentimes, parents get mad at their kids about what they're listening to, and I kind of approach it the other way. I want to know what they're listening to.
Sure.
So I can then have some insight into them. And, a person who listens to, heavy metal, versus Britney Spears, they're two different personalities. So
yeah, absolutely.
Something in those songs is speaking to them. And so it makes perfect sense to write a song that's resonating with you, because chances are it's something that many people out there.
Yeah. Well, you can be a Swiftie. You can appreciate Taylor Swift. You can love Taylor Swift, but you really do have to appreciate what this young lady has done. I mean, people are nutso, and it's all because she knows how to write songs about dudes that have broken up with her, and everybody connects to that, and so she's figured it out.
Her career is over the moment she finds true love.
True love will ruin her. Yeah, so it's kind of just a fun idea to think about. And I got a buddy who is a pretty darn good songwriter. There's so much that, you got to catch lightning in a bottle to write an actual hit song. There's so much that has to come together. But it's fun. The journey might be a little fun. This is the first time I've ever seriously considered it. I don't know what it is about this freaking podcast that when I stand up here and I talk about stuff, I feel like this is like I'm being outed or something. I'm outing myself. But yeah, I'm going to try to sit down. And the thing is, what is legal? Can we come in here and do original stuff and not get shut down as far as music goes?
As long
as it doesn't sound.
Spotify, I haven't read the rules. I just had a conversation with them early on. I can check into that.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing, though. If you want that to be an element of this, we can just
buy a license.
Well, no, we can clip that out of the podcast part, but whatever goes on YouTube's fair game. So.
Well, this is the audience that we're starting with. These are the people that are going to buy the tickets. They're going to buy the album,
right.
The one-song album.
Yeah, there's rules, and I don't know all the rules.
Right.
I don't know why there are rules, but
yep.
the reason why I think that makes it, you can't attack me now.
No.
People say that. My opinion is like, oh, well, But we talked about it early on, and there's a reference to something that Joyce Meyer had said, that with this new way of thinking, it's about freedom of thought. And so you said a couple of weeks ago that all that junk that you used to think about does not occupy your mind anymore.
Yep.
So you've done some house cleaning up there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And when certain situations rise up, rather than going down the rabbit hole, spending time in that arena, you're able to move forward beyond, not even address those things. So it frees up your mind to think about what you want.
Yep.
And that's where a lot of these, new career ideas are. Stand-up comedian.
Yeah, that's true.
Semi-pro podcaster.
And I love my career, by the way. I think I have the best career possible out there. That, being a pastor, preacher, I love it. Gives me an opportunity to do this kind of stuff.
Sure.
And the ultimate, working for the Lord. But yeah, what you're talking about is what I'm experiencing personally are far fewer conversations in my mind that are clogging everything up, because they were negative conversations, and now those conversations aren't taking place, and so what's happening is more space is opening up for music, more space for what it is that I want to go after and what it is that I want to experience. It's just so crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody ought to write a book. Somebody really ought to write a book. They ought to name it 12-2. Renew your mind.
It'd make a good topic.
It really would. Pro tip, we're going to get to this.
And for the listening audience who thinks we have gongs in here, that's not a gong. That's Mike getting excited and he's pounding on the workbench here.
Mm-hmm. Was I doing that?
Yeah, so he's emphasizing his points. He's not aware that he's doing it, but when I'm editing the audio, I am fully aware.
Yeah.
Of.
I can either I need to have gloves on.
We'll get you a squishy.
Keep them behind my back.
No, the pro tip, just simple things. I never had a nice enough car or a new enough car to. When I got this car, of course I bought it used, but it was a nice car. It was a really nice car.
Mm-hmm.
And in the trunk was a new air filter for the engine. He was the guy before me taking good care of it, and he had some spare stuff that he'd tinker with, change the oil, do that kind of stuff.
That's a great sign.
Spare air filter in the trunk and a spare in-cabin air filter.
Mm.
And I was very impressed. I got a HEPA filter inside my car. That's great.
You know how many people don't even know that that's even existing?
And that's the pro tip.
Yeah.
The pro tip is change your in-cabin air filter now.
And don't be freaked out by what you see.
Oh, you ever gone out to, some redneck trailer park and gone to their window unit and pulled the back of it off and the leaves and cotton fuzz and termites and bugs that are all sucked into it?
So are you actually asking me if I've ever done that?
Okay, I've done it. I admit, we lived in a trailer for a while.
Okay, so, no, I haven't done that.
I know about trailer parks.
Yeah,
but
I can imagine.
That window unit that hangs on the outside of a house or something.
I can picture it.
Is never maintained.
Sure.
Because you're inside the house.
Yeah.
To go outside and clean anything out is a lot of effort, so you just don't go do it. Till it starts leaking water inside the house. And you're like, dang, man, I'm going to go check this out, see what's going on.
That might be a little service thing. Start another business.
Well, I got a hair Sunday. I did a million different things. I saw that filter laying on the cabinet, and I was like, I'm going to change that. I pulled it out, and it was just caked. The old one was caked, and I had just had the car in to have it serviced and have them check. There was something going on with the air conditioner anyway. The relay had loosened up and backed out, and they fixed it. GK Auto fixed my air conditioner for no cost. Because there was just a fuse of relays just kind of backed out. We just wiggled it back down, cleaned off the points, put it back in. We're not charging you for that. Great guys over there at GK Auto.
Well, then, when you're done, I got a question for George.
Okay. So, I pulled that filter out. Like, oh, my God. I've been breathing that.
Oh, I know.
And so, it's not an option. It's not a nicety. I put the new filter in, and man, the air conditioner blows great now.
Mm-hmm.
Hard, cold, clean.
And you don't get that initial kind of funky smell.
Right.
That comes wafting at you.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, what the heck? Did something die in the dash?
Yeah, you start looking under your seat.
Yeah.
No, it was the dang.
So just for a little additional direction with the pro tip, where is this filter located? And why, George, do y'all not recommend that this be done? I don't know that I've ever gone in and had someone at an auto place recommend that we change that. They recommend the filter under the hood.
No, if you're working in an auto store, I'm telling you right now, your customers will thank you and pay you $50.
Yeah.
To change that filter. Now, changing it yourself is not hard if you're a DIY person.
It's really not.
You open the glove box. There's a tray in the middle. You grab that tray. You pull it out. And right behind that tray is the in-cabin air filter. Press the two clips inward very tightly while pulling towards you.
Mm-hmm.
It slides out. You slide the new one in, snap it in place, put your glove box back together.
And that's pretty much with
Easy peasy.
all models.
All Honda, Acura.
Yeah. It's the same way.
Yeah, they're pretty much all in the same place. I haven't torn a Chevy
Mm-hmm.
apart yet, but yeah,
It's
the newer cars, they have this in-cabin air filter, and it's not just a bell and a whistle to ignore.
It's really not.
You know, if you have a funk in your car,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and you turn the heater or air conditioner on, you're like, man,
Mhm.
mice get up in my engine or something.
Somebody didn't just take their sweaty shoes off. It's actually your filter.
Right. No, not even check the filter. Just change it. Because
Yeah,
I know,
yeah.
unless you've changed it
And
in the
they're
last
cheap.
2 years, change it.
They're not that expensive. You can get them at O'Reilly's,
Walmart,
quality Walmart
Amazon.
filter.
If you're
Yeah.
lazy like me, just pull it up on Amazon and be in your mailbox the next day.
Yeah. Man, that's a great pro tip.
It's life-changing.
I would
It's
not
the
have
little
expected.
things in life.
It
Really,
is.
it is. Once you change how you think and you start thinking positively,
New filter.
new mental filter. Hey, we got something going on here. Change the mental filter. Change your car
Woo.
filter.
No more funky thinking.
But really, the little things in life become enjoyable.
Yep.
You know, it's like driving a brand new car now.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, everybody, I got new air conditioning. This smells great. Look at this.
A brand new experience.
Inviting friends into my car.
Yeah.
Come here, sit down. But truly,
Yeah, that's cool.
when you make this shift, a whole new world opens up to you. The lighting in the room changes, and you can see things. And last week I gave you, was it last week? I gave you the tip about the wristband. Last week, week before, maybe.
Yeah, maybe the week before.
And that's a tried and true way of just kind of monitoring your thinking, that you're doing something physical as you change the thought process, which helps you kind of complete that exercise and retrain your brain. But whenever you complain, change the wristband to the other wrist and say something you're thankful for, or just say what you're really wanting in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And I came up with a life-changing idea, $1 million idea. Because your phones now, they listen to you, right?
They sure do.
And if you accidentally say those two words around your phone, which I'm not saying right now, hey,
Mm-hmm.
then your phone lights up. So you're, having a conversation with somebody and you say something that sounds similar to that, and your phone's on the table and it goes, bing, yes. Uh-huh.
Seriously?
So it's listening. So I thought, what if I created an app that listened for you to say don't or not? And every time you said those words, your phone went burp, burp, burp. And as soon as that idea came to my mind, man, I could charge $9.99 for that, put it in the app store, be a millionaire by next week. And then I thought, nobody's going to buy it because it is a constant reminder of your failure.
Right.
They're going to listen to it. They'll have it on for a half an hour, and then they're going to throw the phone out the window. I'll be getting lawsuits to replace phones.
Yep.
But negative thinking is so, well, I didn't want to upset them because I don't want to lose that job, and I didn't want to go in there. I'm like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy, though, how often you catch yourself doing that when you're aware of it. And the more you put into practice listening for it, it's rampant.
Yep. For you guys out there listening right now who think, this is silly, I had a physician and we talked about this, and he was getting mad at me as we talked about it because after I explained it, he said, well, I don't think. Looked at me like, you have the audacity to do that to me?
You've done that
He
to
said,
me.
well, but it can't be. Looked at me like, and after about 3 minutes, the time came that we had to part, and he's like, he just kind of bit his tongue and said, all right, Lance, I'll work on that.
Yeah.
And he walked out. He came back the next week to see me. He didn't say a word for
He
3
was-
minutes.
He was scared.
And I would ask him questions. How's your week been? He'd smile and nod his head. And he'd kind of look around the room a little bit. And I said, everything okay? He'd give me a good chuckling nod. Yeah. Just nod. No words.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, I let some silence just sit. He took a breath and he said, I'm not talking because I can't think of how to say what I want to say without saying I can't or don't or, oh my God, I've worked on this all week. It is almost impossible. This is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. He's been to 12, 20 years of college, saving people's lives every day. The hardest thing he's ever done is shift from negative to positive thinking.
Yeah. Hmm.
It sounds simple, but take the challenge. Challenge yourself. Instead of saying don't want, say what you do want. Instead of saying what you can't do, say what you can do. Huge impact.
Yeah.
Very difficult, but a huge positive impact on your life.
We really, really, really are what we think. Because that's where it all starts.
Speaking of who we are,
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to share a thought I had with you yesterday. And, my brain's randomly firing on 7 cylinders about half the time.
Mm-hmm.
But it came to me, who are we? Who are we? What is our, identity? And there have been many different psychological theories about, personality development, who we are, how the brain works, and all of that. And I got to thinking about them, and some of them, like Freud, is everything's kind of formed by the age of 6. You're not even aware of it. It's just there's 6 stages of psychosexual development, and by the time you're actually able to think, it's too late.
Sure.
But Erikson had created what is called a psychosocial model of development. It covers the entire lifespan. And after we've been talking for the past, few weeks about what we've been talking about with changing how you think, how it changes how you perceive and interact with the world, it changes what you want. It just brings so many changes to your life when you start changing how you think. I got to thinking about the difference between Erikson's worldly model. Paul said, do not be conformed to the ways of this world,
Right.
but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And people, well, that's impossible. How could I ever come to see myself as perfect and holy and blameless? How could I ever put myself on the same plane in God's eyes as Jesus? No. I'm just a lowly sinner saved by grace. I don't deserve the sweat off his brow. But that's what Paul tasked us to do, is transformed by the renewing of your mind. Mm-hmm. Go from this basically identity that you've had all your life and adopt the new identity. And it's a transformational process. So I was thinking about that in relation to Eriksonian psychology. And I'll share with you what I'm talking about, because I'm sure it's unfamiliar to you. But Erikson had 8 stages of development, and from 0 to 18 months, there's a challenge that we all face and go through. And in Eriksonian's world, it's trust versus mistrust. And, think about an infant having to, be 100% cared for and nurtured. And if they go through that stage successfully, Parents love them, care for them, feed them,
Yep.
change the poopy diaper.
Yeah.
They come out of that with a trait, hope, or hopeless,
Mm-hmm.
depending on how that stage goes. Then there's autonomy versus shame, which is age 18 months to 3 years. And that's, you're mastering the potty training, you're getting language on board, learning to speak for yourself. And if you come through that with flying colors, then you come out of that with a sense of independence. You're separate from others, you're independent, you have a belief in the self. And then the next stage, 3 to 5 years, initiative versus guilt. Think about age 3 to 5, your feet are working, you're running around the house, tearing stuff up, going out in the backyard, building forts, climbing, and parents are pulling you back down. If you come out of that stage, well, the trait that you develop is purpose. Age 3 to 5, you come away feeling you have purpose. And then they go on. 5 to 12 is industry versus inferiority, and you're beginning school, and a lot of things are beginning to happen for you outside the home, and neighbors playing with the kids, riding bikes. And if you come away well developed in that area, you gain a sense of competence. Age 12 to 18, very appropriate for our times right now. Identity versus inferiority. I'm sorry, identity versus confusion. Identity versus identity confusion, age 12 to 18. And this is where we're trying to figure out how we fit into this world. And who, what peer group are we going to identify with? What music are we going to listen to? Who we're developing our idea. And so you get, 12 kids at school all dressing the same, but they're very different.
Right.
I'm my own man, but I wear my hat to the left. He wears his to the right. It's like 12 guys standing there, and they all look like an Abercrombie commercial. They just have different. They're different, but they're the same.
Yeah.
We're developing our identity.
Yeah.
And if you come out of this stage, 12 to 18, 12 to 21, successfully, you come away with a trait of fidelity. The ability to be faithful, commit to things.
Mm-hmm.
If you develop a strong identity, then you can be faithful and committed to other people, to purposes, to things beyond you. And then age 21 to 39, a big swath of your life. He said there was a stage of intimacy versus isolation, where if you find intimacy, friends, good relationships with family, a partner in life, then you come away with a trait of love. And then age 40 to 65 is generativity versus stagnation. So, most people, by the time they get into their late 30s or 40s, they've settled into a career of some kind. They're working, the tail end oftentimes of raising kids. Are you being productive? Is your life, are you making a good living? You got a good house, sending off kids to college? Are you generative? Are you fruitful in your life? And if not, are you stagnant, not going anywhere? Things aren't working out the way you thought they would, behind on the bills, And he said, if you come away from that stage well developed, you have care for the world. You've taken care of your world. You feel, like you got your hands on things. You got a hold on things, and now you can turn outward and care about what's going on in the world and the neighborhood and friends around you. And the final stage, age 65 and older, interesting, Social Security starts around that time.
Mm-hmm.
Retirement. He said at this stage we have the conflict of integrity versus despair.
That late in the game.
And he says it's at this point in time, as your kids are growing, you're dealing with grandkids, you're no longer working for a living. Most people, are retiring, and now they're sitting down and they begin to reflect back on their life. And did I do it right? Did I do it well? Did I live a good life? And there's a lot of,
did I live with integrity?
Rearward reflection. And
mm-hmm.
if I've, had a good life, if I've raised my children well, if I've been a semi-good husband, if I've, done for my fellow man what should be done,
mm-hmm.
That I live a good life, and then I can have, kind of this sense of integrity. I come away from this stage with wisdom.
Mm.
And so this is kind of Eriksonian psychology. I'm just giving you a thumbnail sketch of the broad overview of it. And,
mm-hmm.
Eriksonian psychologists kind of look at people in these terms. So if I sense hopelessness in you, then that kind of guides me to work on trust issues with you. Because it's hard to go forward in these stages very well if you're screwed up at a lower stage.
Mm.
So if you don't have a lot of hope about the world, if you're fearful of the world, if everybody's out to get you, Erikson would say there was a failed kind of conflict resolution in that 0 to 18, and it left you feeling hopeless. And if you're hopeless, it's hard to be independent.
Sure.
If
yeah.
you don't have hope and you're not independent, it's hard to develop self-confidence and purpose in this world. And what kind of struck me was that this is it's a interesting and apropos model, and it's a good way to kind of categorize things and look at it. But how does spirituality fit into all of that?
I think it's a really easy connection. I don't see it. I really see it. I don't think you can separate them. I think that from the beginning, I think the most basic way for me anyway, to put it is that if you've got the foundation from the beginning of spirituality, of, having faith, that to build off of that is how you go from one transition to the next from this age. So it's a foundation of and this is why when we dedicate children, we dedicate them, and the real onus is on the parents to guide them from the beginning, from the start, through a spiritual journey that is absolutely connected to the experience that they're going to have with the world. Because being transformed, it's so much more challenging to transform later in life. And if we're transforming our minds, the whole idea behind that scripture was so that we could then test and approve the will of God, so that we can connect with the will of God. Well, if we, and I,
Mike's
as a pastor, I believe that we have an identity crisis going on in our world, and the number one reason that we have this is because we've gotten away from really fully not just embracing, but fully surrendering to the reality that we were created by God, and that our identity is first and foremost in Him as children of God. And so if we have that as a foundation, then through that first season of life, I think about Coco. This whole entire time I was thinking about Coco. And I was thinking about how she's being gifted with parents right now who, I'm not going to say that Savannah and Jimmy are the best Christians. They're not. I'm not either. We're all challenged with, it's a continual transformation of our lives. But but they're great parents. They're great parents. They're loving parents. They're believers, and they are completely helping her to know how loved she is, and that she was created by God. We have a children's Bible that she gets to go through and read, and it's just, but that connection, we're created by God. That's where we come from, and then we go on this journey into the world that is constantly battling, like we're having to swim upstream against the so many ways of the world in order to. And I'm not a separatist. I'm not saying that we need to separate from the world. I'm saying we need to be, if we're going to be, the whole idea of in the world and not of the world. I think that too many Christians fail to be in the world because they don't want to be of the world. We were never called to not be in the world. This is our mission. And so the whole idea behind the spiritual journey and the worldly journey is one that if we start out again with the understanding that we came from God and ultimately the journey leads us back to Him, then I think that's how we can embrace our identity. That's who we are. That's why we're here. That's what we're doing. We're on a faith journey that's going to ultimately lead us to an eternity back with Him. And so it took me too long to come to that understanding, to have that experience that opened my eyes to that. And I still struggle daily with that journey, with that battle, because it's a battle. That's why Paul said you got to be renewed with the transforming of your mind. Know who you are. Know whose you are. Know why you're here. Learn this by changing how you think, which changes how you. Jesus never asked us to change the way we behave. He just asked us to change the way we think. And so, just a couple thoughts.
Man, it lit a fire.
Well, I don't know how clear I was.
No, and that's why you're getting it. The light bulb's coming on. It's flickering. There's a difference between worldly thinking, worldly living, and spiritual thinking and spiritual living. Mm-hmm. This Eriksonian model is a reflection of worldly thinking, and it's a passive model. It's kind of like if I and it's generalized. It's all encompassing. It doesn't really account for the outliers in all of this. As generally speaking, we all go through these stages, is what Erikson's saying.
Yeah.
As he observed people in his practice and in the work that he did, this is kind of what he began to see falling out, how they kind of got to these different places in their life. And so he categorized it in this model and then, wrote a book and became famous. And
yeah, I remember going through this in one of my psych classes at K-State.
It's, to me, because I'm a redneck, you got to put it in language I understand.
Mm-hmm.
If I went and stood in Walmart and watched people shopping,
mm-hmm.
and after I watched a couple thousand people shopping, I then sat down and wrote a paper about the shopping experience and how people shop. And generally they walk in the door. Generally they get a cart. Generally they turn to the left. And, I would have this general overview about how the shopping experience goes. But in my mind, and you'll identify with this in a second, there's two different shopping experiences. There's shopping, where you walk in, you kind of stretch out, and you're like, okay, let's see what's going on in here today.
Yep.
And you just kind of walk around and look at things, and, oh, I've never seen this before.
Yeah.
And then there's my kind of shopping. Maybe even your kind of shopping, right?
Get in and out.
Yeah. Before I walk in the store, I know exactly what I want, exactly where it is. I make a beeline straight for it, grab
mm-hmm.
it, walk back out the store.
Mm-hmm.
That's purpose-driven shopping.
Yeah.
I have a purpose. I have a goal. So I don't meander through all of the aisles, noticing things, getting distracted by bright, shiny objects. I go straight to the Cocoa Puffs, grab them, head back to the counter, head out. That's spiritual living.
Mm.
When you transform by the renewing of your mind, why? So that you may know and test. Because there's always 3 or 4 voices in your head at any given time.
Sure.
But so that you may know God's perfect will for you.
Yep.
So that's your purpose in this life. Once you start looking for what is my purpose here, you start, a roadmap starts to fall out. Everything you do starts to kind of hover around, am I fulfilling his will for me, or am I not fulfilling his will for me?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like going shopping. Am I getting distracted by the bright, shiny objects, or am I getting the Cocoa Pebbles and getting out? Now, most people, me, up until 6-7 years ago, most people live our life that way. We just kind of step out into life. Well, what do I want? Well, I'm interested in poli-science or computer programming, so let's go to school on that. And as I just kind of meander through life and meet people, learn things, and kind of go up and down the aisles. Oh, look at that. That's fun. I think I'll try that for a while. Most of us live our life that way. So it would make sense that after living a life, we would then stop and look back and say, well, did I live a good life? Well, what about the idea at the beginning?
Mm-hmm.
At any point along this meandering, Walmart shopping experience, if you went, okay, you know what? I'm going to get the Cocoa Pebbles. I'm going to get the hell out of here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you know what? I've been living a meandering life. I want the next 20 years, the next 40 years, the next 60 years to be purpose-filled.
Yep.
You don't have to go through all of these stages.
Mm-mm.
Because all of this is packaged in a bundle and handed to you already. Your new identity contains hope and will and purpose and competency. Some of the most worldly, incompetent people are the most influential in the Bible.
Absolutely.
Moses was a stutterer.
Mm-hmm.
David a murderer. Paul a murderer.
Yep.
They were highly incompetent and dysfunctional in their lives, but they served. So the competency isn't, do I do things well in the world? The competency is, do I fulfill my will for him? And I can be satisfied with what I'm doing because I feel like this is his calling for me. And so what? I don't make $1 million. I feel fulfilled. I feel wise. I feel a sense of fulfillment. I feel love. I feel fidelity. Just the moment I make that shift, the moment I change how I think, the moment I start thinking, what is his will for my life?
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to know that.
Yeah.
And I start that conversation, all of this, the past fades away. It just fades out into the rearview mirror. What happened 12 years ago? I really don't care anymore.
Yeah.
Because I have a purpose. Now, maybe, just maybe, hopefully, that stuff I went through in the past becomes useful for what I'm doing now. But if it's not, then it just falls off of me. The old is washed away.
Mm-hmm.
Zach Williams, his story was, budding rock star, living the rock star life, drinking, drugging, doing all of that stuff. And, he tells his story. He cries every time I hear him see it. It's just amazing to hear him tell his transformational story. But I can't do that anymore. And he went home crying and talked to his wife, and they made the switch. And he, gave up the rock star life, gave up the rock band, and began to write songs and for the Christian community. And of course, he's a big star in the Christian community now. But he is so humble, and he is so filled with purpose. Doing what he does now, he's taking those skills and attributes and lessons that he learned as a rock star, but he's bringing them to a different community and now reaching millions of people, to fulfill what were you talking about the other day, inviting people to church and stuff like that. I forget what you said now. I was sitting there, I was listening, I was thinking about 18 things, but.
Well, so what I keep thinking about is your analogy of how going to Walmart is the same as like going out into the world.
Yeah.
The Walmart's goal, when you come walking in there, which it blows me away that they still do this whole drive up and get your grocery stuff. I just don't think they can go away from it. But their goal when you walk into Walmart is not that you come in and get exactly what you came in for.
No.
It's to get everything else that you didn't go in
Sure.
for. And so their whole idea is to distract you
Yes.
into shopping more
Yes.
than you need to shop.
Of course.
And so that's what the world does. The world is all filled with distractions, and we're the ones that allow the distractions in. We actually control that.
Yeah.
And so when we understand our purpose, we understand why we're here, we understand where we're headed, it is so much easier to focus on that, especially when we really embrace and understand the power that we have to have our minds transformed by renewing the way we think. And it allows us to let more of God in, because it gets rid of so much of our we are surrendered to something. We're either surrendered to Him or surrendered to the distractions. We're surrendered to God, or we're surrendered to the world. And man, what a powerful and amazing way to live when and this is coming from me, someone who's been preaching the gospel for more than a few years, 15, 16, 17 years. And I'm getting revelation
Right.
that's coming to me, which is why I always tell people, listen, this is not about an immediate transformation. It's a lifelong series of conversions that just continues to allow you to be closer to God.
Sure.
And how amazing is it to think that every single day you can wake up and get closer to God, closer than you may feel super close, but man, you can get even closer. It's amazing. And for me, while I'm preaching, as I stand here right now, it's all about Jesus for me, because that's God.
Sure.
Jesus came here, incarnate, God in the flesh. And so the closer I get to Jesus, the closer I get to God. It's super simple, and it's so cliche, but it's the whole WWJD. What would Jesus do? If I live every day with my decisions being what would Jesus do, that gets me closer to God. And that's where I find transformation. So, boom. That's
No, what would WWJD? What would Jesus do? Well, if you ain't read the book, you don't know.
right.
So,
Yep.
somebody's struggling with something. Who's my neighbor?
Mm-hmm.
There's a story about that.
Yeah.
Family member blows everything off and then comes back humbly and asks for to return to the fold. Well, what would Jesus do? Well, there's a story about that too.
Mm-hmm.
So, the simple, this one commandment I leave you, love others as I have loved you.
Yep.
How do you do that? How do I do that? And we push the Bible away, and we look up into the air and say, how do I do that? When the correct move would be to pull in closer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how do I do that? And look further in and read and get to know.
Yeah, the Gospels, and as you continue to talk today about wisdom, just Proverbs, man. If we spent time focused on the Gospels and on the Proverbs, you talk about freedom, talk about a gift of wisdom. We don't have to wait until we're old and retired to reflect on wisdom. We can reflect on wisdom every day. We can gain a little bit of wisdom, godly wisdom, how to not live like a fool. Man, I would love to be able to say, here we go. I'm not even going to go there. I catch myself starting to go negative. I'm just not going to do it.
Right.
I'm so thankful for where I'm at, and so excited about where we're headed. And that's good.
Well, just to let the listening audience know, this is what happens every time we get together, and we are now actually running late. I'm looking at the clock. I got somewhere to be in 10 minutes. So this is a hard break.
Yep.
Otherwise, we would stand here for another 2 hours talking about this stuff. So we are going to wrap up, and hopefully you guys got something out of today and or wanted to tune back in next Tuesday or Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
Wednesday is when the podcast drops. We record it on Tuesday.
Yep.
So Wednesday at 5 o'clock, the podcast drops. Sunday, noon, the video drops. So be sure to check out any of the new episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you like and follow. If you're this far into the podcast or the video, go ahead and click the like button and share this with other people. Click the follow button. That way you're constantly reminded when a new episode comes out. We don't email you. We don't spam you. I don't have that technology or time or patience.
Me neither. But we can. The personal invite is a big deal too. Here's a challenge for each one of us this week. Personally invite someone to the podcast. Share with them the link, either on your phone or however you want to do it. But share with them. Just tell them about just these guys you know, and let's see if we can go help somebody this week.
I am Lance.
And I'm Mike.
And we are just these guys, you know. We will catch you next week.
God bless.